The sky over Varelia was a swirl of fire and smoke. Towering cities that had once glittered under twin suns now lay in ruins. Explosions echoed across the shattered landscape, and the cries of the wounded filled the air. The Chiron, an alien race, known for their beauty and grace, were fighting desperately to survive. Among them was Princess Lyria, young, determined, and unwilling to cower behind palace walls while her people suffered. Her shimmering armor reflected the flames around her, her long hair tangled with ash, and her luminous eyes burned with defiance. Even as a princess, she had trained with the warriors of her planet. She had learned how to wield energy blades, how to maneuver through chaos, how to face death without trembling. But nothing in her life had prepared her for this. Her army was outnumbered, their weapons failing against the advanced technology of the invading forces. Every strike she landed seemed to matter less and less, and each time she saw another friend fall, her heart tightened like a vice. Amid the chaos, something unusual appeared on the battlefield. A human, a stranger from a distant planet, stood calmly amid the carnage. Marcus had come to Varelia as part of a peace mission, a representative of Earth's interstellar alliance. He had no weapons of mass destruction, no army to command. He had only his training, his instincts, and a stubborn refusal to abandon those in need. When he saw Lyria fighting alone, facing almost certain death, he did not hesitate. He ran through the smoke and debris, weaving between blasts and falling bodies. His movements were precise, almost instinctual, a dance of survival and courage. Lyria noticed him immediately, her eyes narrowing in disbelief. Humans were supposed to be weak, fragile, incapable of true combat. Yet here was one moving with purpose, defying odds, she thought, insurmountable. Then it happened. An explosion rocked the ground beneath her feet, and a massive shrapnel struck her side. Pain seared through her body, and she fell to her knees. Her energy blade clattered to the ground. Her vision blurred, and the sounds of battle grew distant. She tried to rise, but her strength failed her. She felt herself slipping away, the weight of mortality pressing down like never before. Panic threatened to consume her, but before darkness could claim her, strong arms lifted her off the ground. Marcus held her close, shielding her from the chaos. "Stay with me," he shouted over the roar of the battlefield. His voice was steady, commanding, and somehow reassuring. Lyria's heart pounded, confusion mixing with awe. She had been trained to trust only her people, to rely on Chiron's strength. And yet, here was a human, someone she barely knew, risking everything to save her life. He ran toward the wreckage of a transport ship, dodging enemy fire, lifting her over obstacles, never faltering. Every step was a testament to his determination, to the unshakable will of a species she had underestimated. Lyria felt herself slipping again, fatigue and injury dragging her down. Her hand reached for his arm, gripping it as if her life depended on it, because it did. Finally, they reached the ship. Marcus threw open the hatch and pulled her inside, slamming the door shut just as the enemy drew near. The interior was cramped and battered, but it was safe for now. He lowered her gently onto the metal floor, inspecting her wounds with quick, practiced movements. Blood stained her clothes, and her breathing was shallow. Lyria looked up at him, her luminous eyes wide with a mixture of fear, pain, and disbelief. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's failing engines. "A friend," Marcus replied softly. Then, more firmly, "and someone who won't let you die today." For the first time, Lyria felt a strange sense of hope amidst the despair. The battle outside could rage on, the city could fall, but here, in this small, battered ship, a human warrior had become her lifeline. And though she did not know it yet, the choices they made in the next few hours would change not only her fate, but the fate of her entire planet. Outside, the sounds of war continued, but inside, a fragile spark of trust, courage, and connection had been ignited, one that could not be extinguished, no matter how dark the world became. The interior of the transport ship was cramped, dark, and smelled faintly of burnt metal and oil. Outside, the battlefield raged on, explosions shaking the hull, alien cries echoing through the night. Marcus lowered Princess Lyria gently onto the floor, his hands shaking slightly, not from fear, but from the realization of what was at stake. Every second counted. Her body was fragile, her life hanging by the thinnest of threads. He pressed his hands to her wounds, trying to stop the bleeding with torn pieces of cloth from his own uniform. Lyria's skin was cool to the touch, pale where her light usually shone like moonlight. Her eyes fluttered weakly, her breathing shallow. "Marcus, I can't," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes, you can," he said firmly, his voice cutting through her fading consciousness. "You're going to make it. I won't let you die. Not here. Not like this." He scanned the ship quickly. The medkits they had brought were limited, and he knew the Chiron anatomy was delicate, far more complex than human biology. He had read about emergency procedures in the peace mission manuals, but nothing in practice could prepare him for this. Her wounds were deep, and the blood loss was severe. Her heart was weak. If he didn't act fast, she would slip away. A dangerous idea formed in his mind. It was risky, dangerous for both of them, but it might save her. Marcus tore open a small first aid kit, grabbing a blood transfusion set. The instructions were meant for humans, but he knew he had to try. The blood from a human might be incompatible with her alien body. It could kill her, or it could kill him. But watching her fade like this, he could not let fear decide. "Princess, I need you to trust me," he said softly. Her eyelids fluttered, as if she understood, but she couldn't speak. He carefully connected the transfusion, his hands steady even as his heart raced. The red liquid began to flow slowly into her veins, the smallest drops carrying hope. Minutes passed like hours. Outside, distant explosions shook the hull, but inside, a fragile silence held them. Marcus monitored her breathing, checking for signs of rejection. Every tiny rise and fall of her chest gave him hope, but the tension was unbearable. Her eyes opened slightly, just enough to meet his. "Human," she whispered, awe and disbelief threading her voice. "Why?" "Because someone has to fight for you," Marcus said, gripping her hand gently. "Because someone has to believe in you. And because you deserve to live." Tears blurred her vision as strength slowly returned to her body. Her chest rose more steadily, her grip on his hand tightening just a little. For the first time since the battle began, she felt hope. She had been taught that humans were weak, that their courage was limited to their own survival. But here was one, standing in the middle of chaos, risking everything for someone he barely knew. He had become more than a stranger. He had become her savior. Outside, a shadow passed across the cracked windows. Enemy forces were searching for the princess, unaware she was inside. Marcus knew they didn't have much time. He lifted her carefully into his arms again, scanning the damaged controls of the transport ship. He had learned enough to start the engines, but escape would not be simple. The ship was old, barely functional, and every moment of delay could mean death. With a deep breath, Marcus began to navigate the vessel, dodging fire and debris as the engines sputtered to life. Lyria leaned against him, still weak but gaining strength with every heartbeat. She felt warmth. She had never known the warmth of a being who would not let her fall, whose courage was unwavering even in the face of impossible odds. For Marcus, the moment was heavier than any battlefield he had known. He wasn't just fighting for victory or survival. He was fighting for someone else's life. And in that fight, he discovered something profound about himself. Humans could rise to greatness not by power alone, but by the choices they made in the darkest moments. As the ship finally lifted from the burning battlefield, shaking and groaning under stress, Marcus held Lyria close. Her pulse was steady now, her eyes beginning to shine with life once more. And though neither of them spoke, both understood the truth. this was only the beginning. The bond formed in this impossible rescue would carry them through challenges no one could foresee, across stars and worlds, into a future neither could yet imagine. The ship hummed and shook as it slowly left the burning battlefield behind. Outside, the sky was still a swirl of smoke and fire, but inside, the quiet was heavy. Marcus sat beside Princess Lyria, watching her carefully. She was pale, but stable, her luminous eyes blinking slowly as she tried to make sense of what had happened. "Ty, I can't believe I'm alive," Lyria whispered, her voice weak. She reached out, her fingers brushing against Marcus's arm. "And you, a human, saved me." Marcus gave a small, tired smile. "I told you, I won't let you die. Not today. Not ever, if I can help it." He kept his voice steady, but inside, he felt the weight of responsibility pressing down. One wrong move, and he could lose her forever. Her breathing remained shallow. Even with the transfusion, she was fragile. The human blood had stabilized her temporarily, but it was not a complete cure. Her alien physiology was too delicate, too different. Marcus knew she needed more care, immediate medical attention from someone who understood her species, but the nearest safe haven was light years away. He had no choice but to stay by her side, to do everything he could to keep her alive. "Your body. It's reacting strangely," Marcus murmured, studying her. "I've never seen anything like this. The human blood. It's stabilizing you, but it's risky. You might survive, or it might not work long term." Lyria's large eyes widened with a mixture of fear and awe. "You gave me your life," she said softly. "Why risk yourself for me?" Marcus looked down at her hand, holding it gently. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because I couldn't let someone so brave, so strong, just die while I stood by. Because someone has to fight for hope, and today, that someone is me." Her chest rose and fell a little more steadily, the red hue of human blood flowing through her alien veins. It was an impossible combination, something no scientist had ever attempted. Yet it was working just barely. Lyria felt strength returning, warmth spreading through her body, her heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of life again. I feel strange," she whispered. "Alive, but different. That's the gift," Marcus said quietly. "A dangerous one, maybe impossible, but it's working. You're alive, Lyria. That's all that matters." She looked at him, tears welling in her eyes. "I've always been trained to fight, to survive, to protect my people, but I never imagined someone like you, human, small, fragile by your own standards, would risk everything for me." Marcus shook his head, brushing a lock of ash-stained hair from her face. "Fragile. Maybe, but humans can be brave in ways most can't imagine. And sometimes, when the world seems hopeless, all it takes is one person to refuse to give up." Minutes passed in silence. The distant explosions outside seemed smaller, less important, as if the universe itself had paused to witness this fragile miracle. Lyria's body, stabilized by Marcus's dangerous gift, began to regain color. Her luminous eyes, once dim with injury, now reflected determination and gratitude. "You've changed everything for me," she said softly. "Not just my life, but my view of your people. I've been taught to fear humans, to think we are so different, so incompatible. But now I see the truth." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "The truth is simple. We're all capable of courage, loyalty, and love, no matter our species. What matters is what we do when it counts." "For the first time since the battle," began Lyria, felt hope not just for herself, but for her planet, for her people, for the possibility of peace. The human warrior beside her was proof that even in the darkest moments, life could be saved, bonds could be formed, and the impossible could become reality. Outside the ship, the night stretched endlessly, filled with danger and uncertainty. But inside, A fragile spark of trust and connection had been ignited between human and alien. It was a bond that could not be broken, one that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. And though neither spoke it aloud, both Marcus and Lyria understood this was only the beginning. Together, they had faced death and survived. Together, they would confront the dangers yet to come. Together, they would prove that courage and heart could transcend worlds. The transport ship floated through the dark expanse of space, its engines groaning under the strain of years of wear. Inside, the lights flickered, casting soft shadows across Marcus and Princess Lyria. She leaned weakly against the wall, still, pale from her injuries, yet her luminous eyes were brighter than ever, filled with curiosity, awe, and something more, something she had never felt before. Marcus, she began softly, her voice hesitant. I don't understand. Humans. I was taught to fear them, to think you were fragile and weak. And yet, she looked at him with wonder, her gaze searching for answers he couldn't give fully. You risked everything. For me. Marcus smiled gently, brushing his fingers across a loose strand of her hair. Maybe we're not so different after all, he said. We're all capable of courage, of kindness, of love. It's not about the species. It's about what's in the heart. Her eyes filled with tears, a mixture of gratitude, disbelief, and relief. She had faced death, had seen her world collapse, and now, she had survived because of a being she barely knew, a human who had given more than his strength, more than his skill, more than his blood. He had given her life. For a long moment, silence settled between them. Outside, stars streaked past as the ship moved forward. Inside, time seemed to slow. Lyria's hand found Marcus's fingers intertwining instinctively. It was a simple touch, but it spoke of trust, connection, and something deeper. Something neither of them had expected. You saved me, she whispered again, almost as if testing the words, afraid they might vanish in the vast emptiness of space. And yet, I feel like I owe you more than my life. I don't know how to repay you. Marcus shook his head, squeezing her hand gently. You don't have to repay me. You've done more than anyone could ask just by surviving, by being who you are. That's enough. That's what matters. Lyria's tears fell freely now, and Marcus reached out, carefully brushing them away. She leaned against him, exhausted but comforted. In that quiet moment, amidst the darkness and uncertainty, a bond formed that transcended worlds, transcended species. For the first time in her life, she felt a deep sense of hope that humans and Chiron, despite their differences, could understand each other, could work together, could care for one another. The moment, however, was not without its tension. Lyria's body was still fragile. The transfusion had saved her temporarily, but it was a dangerous bridge between two species. Every heartbeat was precious, every breath a reminder of her mortality. Marcus knew he had to stay vigilant, not just against physical threats, but against the unpredictable nature of her condition. Yet, despite the danger, Lyria's spirit was unbroken. She looked at him, her expression determined. Marcus, I want to fight with you. Not just survive, but fight. If we're going to protect my people, we need to be ready for whatever comes next. Marcus nodded, admiration flooding his heart. Then we'll do it together, he said firmly. You won't face anything alone. A small smile formed on Lyria's lips, and for the first time since the battle began, she felt truly safe. Not because the war was over, not because the enemy was gone, but because she had found someone she could trust completely, someone who would stand beside her, no matter the odds. As they floated through the silent void, they shared stories of their worlds, their lives, and their dreams. Marcus spoke of Earth, of humans striving to survive in a vast universe, of hope and courage, even in the darkest times. Lyria shared the history of her people, the beauty of Varelia, the traditions and values that shaped her world. They laughed, softly, sometimes in disbelief at how different their lives had been, sometimes in awe at how similar they truly were. The bond between human and alien deepened with every word, every touch, every shared heartbeat. They were more than allies now. They were friends, companions, and perhaps something even stronger, something neither of them fully understood yet. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to the unlikely connection that had formed inside the small, battered ship. And though the galaxy was full of dangers, yet unseen, for now, they had each other. For now, hope had returned, fragile but unbroken, and with it, the promise that together, they could face whatever the universe might throw at them. The calm they had found inside the ship was fragile, like glass about to shatter. Marcus kept his eyes on the sensors, his instincts on high alert. The battlefield might be behind them, but danger had a way of following, and it did not take long for that danger to arrive. A series of alarms beeped sharply. Marcus's heart tightened. On the screens, a rebel Chiron faction misled and angry had tracked their ship. They did not know Lyria had survived, but they were determined to prevent the princess from escaping. Their ships, armed with advanced energy weapons, surged toward Marcus's battered vessel. Lyria's body tensed beside him, but she did not panic. "Marcus, we can't hide anymore," she said, her voice steadier than he expected. Despite her recent near-death experience, despite the transfusion that had made her fragile, she refused to cower. "We have to fight, for my people, and for all of Varelia." Marcus nodded, admiration mixing with concern. "I've got your back. We'll face this together." The first wave of enemy fire struck the hull, shaking the ship violently. Sparks flew from exposed panels, and the air inside smelled of ozone and scorched metal. Marcus grabbed the controls, weaving the ship through narrow asteroid fields, dodging blasts that could tear them apart in an instant. Beside him, Lyria's hands hovered over the emergency weapons console. Her fingers trembled slightly, but her determination shone through. "Cover me while I aim," she said. "We can't let them close in." Marcus's eyes softened as he watched her. She had survived against impossible odds before, yet here she was again, standing tall, ready to fight. He realized that her courage wasn't just in her skill with weapons, it was in her heart. Her refusal to give up even when the world seemed ready to destroy her. The battle began in earnest. Energy blasts lit up the cabin as Lyria fired carefully, her aim precise, despite her weakness. Marcus maneuvered the ship with skill, born from years of combat training, taking calculated risks to keep them alive. Every movement, every decision, every heartbeat was a test of their trust in each other. Time seemed to blur. Marcus's hands were steady, his mind sharp, but exhaustion clawed at him. Lyria's breaths grew heavier, her strength fading with each passing moment. Yet she did not falter. She fought with a bravery that Marcus could not help but admire, and each shot she fired reminded him why he had risked everything to save her. One of the enemy ships closed in dangerously, weapons locked on their vessel. Marcus's heart pounded. He knew if a direct hit landed, it would tear the ship apart. "Hold on," he shouted, twisting the controls, firing the ship's defensive lasers at the incoming threat. Sparks flew, and the enemy vessel veered away. At the last second, Lyria's face was pale, but her eyes burned with determination. "We can do this," she whispered. "Together." And together, they pushed back the enemy. Marcus's skills and human ingenuity, combined with Lyria's precision and courage, made them an unstoppable force. One by one, the enemy ships faltered, retreating into the darkness of space. When the final ship fled, silence fell inside their vessel. Both were breathing heavily, their bodies trembling with exhaustion. Marcus looked at Lyria, and she met his gaze, a mix of relief, pride, and an unspoken connection passing between them. You were amazing," he said, his voice soft, almost reverent. Lyria shook her head, a small smile forming. "No, you were. You guided us through that storm. Without you, I wouldn't have made it." Marcus shook his head again. "We made it together." For the first time since the battle began, they allowed themselves a moment of peace. Outside, the stars were silent witnesses to their courage. Inside, a fragile bond had been forged, not just of survival, but of mutual respect, trust, and something deeper, something neither of them could yet name, though they were safe for now. Both knew that this victory was only temporary. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, and enemies could return at any moment. Yet one thing had become clear: whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. The human warrior and the alien princess had proven that courage, trust, and heart could transcend even the greatest differences. And in that truth, a new hope began to shine, one that neither species, nor even the universe itself, could ignore. The battle had ended, but the echoes of it lingered in the silence of the transport ship. Marcus and Lyria floated in the quiet of space, their bodies tired, their hearts still racing from the adrenaline. For the first time in days, the world of Aurelia seemed distant, and yet its shadow hung over them. Lyria's pale fingers brushed against the console, and Marcus noticed the small tremor in her hands. She had survived impossible odds, yet the weight of everything they had endured was settling on her like a heavy cloak. Marcus reached out, resting a hand gently over hers. "It's over for now," he said softly. "We made it through. You're safe, and that's what matters." She looked at him, her large, luminous eyes reflecting the faint light of the stars outside. I can't believe we survived," she whispered. "And yet, somehow, with you, it feels like anything is possible." Marcus smiled, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "Hope is powerful," he said. "Stronger than fear. Stronger than weapons. Today, we proved that." For the first time, Lyria allowed herself to relax, leaning back against the wall of the ship. Her chest rose and fell more steadily now, her strength slowly returning. The transfusion Marcus had given her, the dangerous gift of his own blood, had done more than stabilize her, had saved her life. But it had also created something neither of them could fully explain. There was a connection between them now, fragile but undeniable, a bond forged in fire, blood, and trust. "I never imagined," Lyria began, her voice trembling slightly. "I never imagined a human could be so brave, so selfless." Marcus shook his head, a small laugh escaping him. "You'd be surprised what we're capable of when we fight for someone else. It's not about species, it's about heart." Her eyes softened, and for a moment, silence wrapped around them like a warm blanket. They didn't need words. The unspoken understanding between them was enough. She had trusted him with her life, and he had honored that trust with every ounce of his strength. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to this fragile, unlikely bond. Lyria's mind wandered to her people, to the future of Aurelia. She had survived, yes, but her people still faced uncertainty. Yet, seeing Marcus beside her, she felt a spark of hope she had never known. Perhaps the humans, a species she had once feared, could be allies, friends, even something more. Marcus studied her quietly, noting the faint smile on her lips, the life returning to her features. "You're stronger than you realize," he said. "And your people, they'll follow your example. Courage like yours inspires others, Lyria. Don't forget that." She nodded slowly, her heart swelling with gratitude. "You've given me more than life," she said softly. "You've given me hope, and hope can change everything." The quiet was broken by a faint beep from the ship's console, reminding them that the universe was vast and full of unknowns. Yet, in that small moment, the fear that had plagued them both seemed distant. They had faced death together, survived impossible odds, and forged a bond that defied logic and prejudice. Lyria turned to Marcus, her expression serious, yet gentle. When we return to my people, they must know the truth. That humans, that you, are not what we were taught to fear. You've shown me that bravery, loyalty, and honor exist in every species willing to stand for others. Marcus's heart swelled with quiet pride. Then let's make sure they know. Together, for hours, they spoke softly, sharing stories of their lives, their fears, and their dreams. Marcus told her of Earth, of humans striving to survive in a vast and sometimes cruel universe. Lyria shared the history of Varelia, the beauty of her people, and the hardships they had endured. Each story deepened their understanding. Each laugh and sigh drew them closer. As the ship floated silently through the void, both realized that the bond they had formed was not just about survival, it was about trust, friendship, and a connection that could transcend the boundaries of worlds. In each other, they had found not only allies, but companions, perhaps even something deeper, something that could survive long after the battle was forgotten. The universe outside remained dangerous, and the challenges ahead were uncertain. But inside the small transport ship, a fragile light of hope shone. Marcus and Lyria had survived together, and together they would face whatever came next. And in that truth, a new strength began to grow, one that would carry them, and perhaps all of Varelia, toward a brighter tomorrow. Months had passed since the battle, yet the memories of fire, blood, and courage remained vivid in both Marcus and Lyria's minds. Varelia was no longer a battlefield. The cities had been rebuilt, the people healing, and a fragile peace settling over the planet. The Chiron were cautious but hopeful, their trust in humans slowly growing. All because of one human warrior who had risked everything to save their princess. Lyria stood on a balcony overlooking the city, the twin suns casting a golden light over the rebuilt streets. Her luminous eyes, once dim with injury, now shone brightly with life, determination, and gratitude. Marcus stood beside her, his arm brushing lightly against hers, a silent comfort between them. They had shared battles, danger, and survival. They had forged a bond that no prejudice, no fear, and no distance could break. You know, Lyria began softly, her voice carrying over the quiet city, I never imagined a human could be like this, brave, selfless, unwavering. She looked at Marcus, her gaze filled with wonder. You've changed everything for me, for my people, for this world. Marcus smiled gently, feeling a warmth he had never experienced before. I didn't do it for glory, Lyria, he said. I did it because it was the right thing to do, because someone had to, and because you deserved to live. She reached out, placing a hand on his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. And in doing so, you've given me more than life. You've given me hope. A chance to believe that courage and kindness are not limited by species, that one heart can make a difference even across worlds. Marcus's expression softened. Humans have always believed in fighting for something bigger than themselves. Today, I realize that even across the stars, hope and courage are universal, and sometimes one human heart can change the fate of an entire planet. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the city around them buzzing softly with the life they had fought to protect. Children played in the streets, soldiers trained in the squares, and the Chiron people moved with cautious joy. The bond between human and alien had not only saved Lyria, it had begun to heal the mistrust between two species, planting seeds of unity that could grow for generations. Lyria's hand tightened slightly on his arm. When the people see us together, when they hear our story, they'll understand that bravery isn't limited to one race or one planet. Humans, they can be heroes too. Marcus nodded. They'll understand, and even more, they'll remember that hope is stronger than fear, and trust is stronger than hate. That's what we've shown them. A gentle breeze stirred through the balcony, carrying the sense of blooming alien flowers and the promise of a new day. Lyria closed her eyes for a moment, breathing it in, feeling alive in a way she hadn't since the battle began. Marcus watched her, admiration and respect filling him. He knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, stronger for the trials they had endured. "You saved me once," she said softly, "but you've also saved my people, and, in a way, me as well. Not just my life, but my heart, my hope, my belief in the good of others." Marcus shook his head gently, smiling. "No one hero does it alone. We saved each other. That's the truth of it. And it's a story that will be remembered, not just for the battle, but for what it taught us about courage, trust, and the power of one person to make a difference." The twin suns dipped toward the horizon, bathing the city in a golden glow. Below, the Chiron people watched their princess, marveling at the human warrior who had stood by her side, defying expectations, defying fear, and proving that heart could surpass all odds. Legends would speak of this story for centuries, a tale of bravery, trust, and the unbreakable bond between two beings from entirely different worlds. Lyria turned to Marcus, her eyes shining. "Thank you for everything, for saving me, for believing in me, and for showing me that courage isn't measured by species, but by the choices we make." Marcus smiled softly, feeling a quiet pride. "And thank you for trusting me, for showing me that hope can survive even in the darkest times. Together, we've done something unbelievable." In that moment, standing together on the balcony of a world reborn, human and alien, warrior and princess, realized the truth. Sometimes, the impossible is only impossible until someone refuses to give up. And in that refusal, the universe itself can be changed. The stars above twinkled like silent witnesses, and below, Virelia thrived, forever marked by the courage of one human and the hope of one Chiron princess. Together, they had shown the galaxy that bravery, compassion, and heart were not limited by species but could define the destiny of worlds.